All right, week 6 video. So took my girlfriend out on a date Saturday. It was a very long date. Um, had a great time. Get back, I get a call at like 10 something at night. Hey, you're on weekend duty. You need to come on in. Great. I hadn't even had my lineups done because usually I do them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I had a ton of class work. I'm about to throw some excuses, but so Sunday I have a 2.5 hour drive. I had to rush back to work. I don't work 2.5 hours away, but I was visiting and couldn't really do all my lineups. Had to run into work. Couldn't get all my lineups in. Didn't even use all my people. I was devastated. Had a lot of good picks and not a lot of good lineups because I couldn't get my roster construction in. One of the guys that watched my video last week was like, "Hey, thanks, great picks, man. 500% profit this week. Thanks." Yeah, thank you. You're welcome, but bittersweet. But that's all I'm looking for. Like, if you guys had a good week with my picks, but used others as well, like, hey, just comment, hey, I used these guys and these guys with this, and it paid out well. Like, thanks, because I don't even know if this stuff works for y'all. Like, a lot of it's roster construction, so I just try to throw some guys in there. But I'll dive into it. I'll do a weekly breakdown of the slate this week. So 11 games, a lot of big running backs. There's some streamable quarterbacks, good bit of wide receivers. Now, I try to do these early. I didn't do them yesterday. I was watching all the games. I'm a Yankees fan and a Jets fan, and I actually got to hang out with my roommate. We never see each other. He's on a different shift. I'm on day shift. Never see each other. Actually got to see him, and we were just talking, hanging out. New Star Wars trailer looked pretty good, and the game last night was not. The Yankees game was awesome. So I didn't get to do the video last night, so I got to do it tonight. It doesn't have as much research as I usually do. Someone commented on Sunday like, "Hey, any updates?" I'm sorry, I couldn't get to you. I was driving and then at work. Like, I felt bad. I saw the comment later, and I was like, well, too late. So without further ado, first guy, as always, like, you can always play Rodgers. I don't like his matchup as much. His price, 7,300 on DraftKings, so 1,000 below Brady. Jets, they actually have a good secondary. Like, these new safety tandem we got, Marcus May, Jamal Adams, like, absolutely amazing. Hopefully I get a jersey this year of one of them. Although last jerseys I got, they're both no longer on the team, so we'll see. I don't know about the New England Jets game quarterback-wise. Like, so it is New England's favored by 9.5 points. Disrespect, but I understand Vegas. And I still won't bet on that game. And it's a 47.5 over-under. Whenever the home quarterback is not favored to win, it's just a good rule of thumb to use him. Well, when the Patriots have the defense that they do, which isn't really one, you can use McCown to stream. A lot of people will do that because they'll go to McCown and they'll see his price tag and they'll see he's 32nd opponent ranking for 5,200, and they're going to say, like, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to tell you no. Like I just said, that he's not favored. He's at home. He's going to have to throw. Like, they probably just lost Bilal Powell. He's going to have to throw. New England's not good against running backs either. So if they get out to a good run game with Elijah McGuire maybe, and they get out with a good run game, then and keep that ball away from beat up Brady, like, Madden curse got you, man. Just a matter of time. I was hopeful this year, not for you to get hurt. No offense. But so what I'm saying is stream McCown. Absolutely. I'm not going to tell you not to. But one, that defense that I saw in Tampa Bay against Winston looked a lot better, and they're pissed off. If Jimmy Garoppolo comes in and plays, it's not. I don't think it matters. He's a veteran in that system. But yeah, this Jets secondary is good, and Tom Brady's beat up. Jets aren't really good against the running backs, so I like the running backs for New England. I like Elijah McGuire as a cheap stream option. Cash games. I mean, you can use him in GPPs because of how cheap he is. He opens up your rosters. So yeah, I like him. But as for actual quarterbacks, I just want to throw that out there. A lot of people are going to stream McCown this week. You could have some exposure to him in cash, but I'm not going to have probably any exposure. I talked about Rodgers. I brought him up first. He's at Minnesota. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Green Bay's favored, so you could use Case Keenum. Maybe you could use Bradford. No one really knows who's going to play. I don't really like anyone from that game on the Minnesota side. Jordy Nelson has a tough matchup against Xavier Rhodes, but it's Jordy Nelson, so it doesn't matter. He's matchup proof. And Devonta Adams has an amazing matchup with Trey Waynes, so he's good. You can stack Rodgers with anyone any week. Like, it doesn't matter. The over-under on that game is 47. A lot of people are probably going to like Rodgers. Decent matchup. His price tag's a little high. Drew Brees is right there too at home against Detroit. Another decent defense. They're right on par with Minnesota. Two good corners, so they don't have the same safety as Minnesota does. But it's Drew Brees at home coming off of a bye. With Stafford could be beat up and hurt. So I kind of like that. If Stafford's fine, it should be a shootout, and that's what you want to look at. Detroit at New Orleans. This is the highest over-under that Vegas has, and New Orleans is favored, but Stafford's in a dome. So it's not really bad. The traveling, he's going from Detroit to New Orleans, so that's not a big deal. So you could play Stafford. I'm just worried about his injury, and New Orleans having a week of preparation. But Vegas and I both think the same, that New Orleans wins this game. So I like Drew Brees in this one a lot. Obviously, Michael Thomas, he has a pretty tough matchup, but he's one of those guys that are just matchup proof. The volume's there. They get Willie Snead back, and Detroit Lions aren't that good against the tight end. So you got Kobe Fleener in play, but they're not good against the running backs either. So, like, how is this defense ranked 16th overall on DraftKings? Like, there's no way, because I just listed all these other things that they suck against. Adrian Peterson is now an Arizona Cardinal, so you can use Ingram's going to be lower owned. Alvin Kamara is going to be extremely high owned. He's 4,500. He's 100 more than Ingram, and everyone's going to use him because of the PPR. But New Orleans is favored to win, so I'm good with Ingram. I'm good with both of them. I'll have them both. I'll have more exposure to Kamara, but yeah, I'm going to have exposure to both. I'll try to stay on topic with quarterbacks. I always talk for so long. I don't really like Matt Ryan. He's got a decent matchup against Miami. Not a great matchup, mediocre. I believe they're actually really good against the quarterback, oddly enough. But I know he has potential for 300 yards in the dome. I just haven't seen it out of him yet this season with that new offense. It does a lot of things. Yeah, the Dolphins are actually really good against the quarterback. So, yeah, I don't really. I know they're on a bye. Miami sucks, but for his price, I'd rather pay 200 or 300 more for Brees or Rodgers and have a much higher ceiling. And that Miami Atlanta game is Atlanta's favored -11, and it's over under 47. So that's good. The -11 favors the running back at home. Freeman's always good at home. So we saw more Coleman week 4. So I got to keep that in mind. I don't like those little split back committees, those running backs, although I just said Kamara and Ingram. So I guess I'm a liar. And I said James White or Gillislee, which I didn't say that yet. Spoiler alert. But I said it was New England running backs. So, yeah, I don't really care as much for committee running backs, but when your team's favored to win by 11, usually you use the running back, especially when you're at home. You can use that running back at home. So Freeman's also in play. Kirk Cousins is going to be a chalky play. He's got a great matchup. He's cheaper than all those guys I just named, and he's right there with Deshaun Watson. That's the only reason he won't be as chalky, is because Deshaun Watson is lighting the league up right now, and he gets to play at home against Cleveland. So, like, people are going to – and I want to blame them. People are going to pick Deshaun Watson over Kirk Cousins, I feel, a lot, way more. But you got to remember, San Francisco playing at Washington. This is Washington, D.C., So it's a 4 o'clock. It's got to be a 4 o'clock game. I'm not even looking at that. It's got to be a 4. No, it's a 1 o'clock game. Good gosh. So a West Coast team is traveling to the East Coast to play a 1 p.m. game. Yep. Washington's favored 9.5 to over under 46.5. So I like it. I like Kirk Cousins. San Francisco's not really good against anything except for the tight end. They're number one against the tight end. I'm not going to use Jordan Reed. He's banged up. He'd be a super low ownership, but that's always a GPP play. If you can get an athlete at that level for that ownership, you could always play him. Personally, I'm not going to have him in a single lineup because, like I said, San Francisco's number one. Their linebackers are real athletic. They usually fare well against tight ends when you have athletic running backs or athletic linebackers. So I like their wide receivers. If you could figure out, I'm gonna roll with Josh Doxson, a little bit of Terrell Pryor, and I like their running backs as well. Fat Rob's hurt. I don't know if he's gonna play. Don't know that yet. It's only Tuesday. That's something to look into. But Samaje Perine, I don't really care if your last name's Panini. It doesn't matter. Like, he's cheap, and if he gets to start, he's 4,400, and Chris Thompson's 4,800. Because of Chris Thompson's first few weeks, everyone's going to use Chris Thompson plus the pass catching abilities. But San Francisco is one of the worst against the running backs. So keep that in mind. Deshaun Watson, talked about him. He's at home. They're heavily favored. I don't know where I wrote it down at. Cleveland at Houston. Houston minus 9.5, 45. This is the most upsets. The most favors I've ever seen. Minus 11, minus 9.5, minus 9.5, minus 7, minus 9.5, minus 12. Like, Vegas just thinks none of these games are going to be close, which if you bet on games, this is a tough one. Because I don't know. I don't like giving up that many points to any NFL game. But Deshaun Watson at home playing against Cleveland. You get the run potential. You don't really have that with any of the other quarterbacks I just said. Like, yeah, Rodgers might get you 10, 20 yards. Cousins, no. So, and that's the next best one. Breeze, he runs like a 7-8 second 40. I don't think he's going to get you any there. But Watson has that run potential. He's great in the pocket. He's got poise. There's not a lot of film against him, and he's at home, averaging 24 fantasy points a game. Yeah, you can use him all day. Phillip Rivers against Oakland. I wrote him down as another guy. It sounds like I'm just picking all the top quarterbacks right now. And I am. I said no to Matt Ryan though, so got you on there. Rivers at Oakland. I kind of put an eh next to this one. Actually, I didn't even kind of. I put an eh next to this one. I'd rather pay less for Carson Palmer than pay that price for Rivers. Because you never know what you're going to get with them. He's consistent, then he throws 4 interceptions, so I guess he's not consistent. He has those 300-yard games. Melvin Gordon went off, but I don't know. So that's why I kind of put next to him. Oakland's pretty good against the quarterback. They're pretty good against the receivers, so I don't really like it as a stack. Every time I look at someone, it's as a stack. I have to stack a quarterback, so I don't really like him as a stack either. Stafford, I talked about, he should be good. He should be good to play. We don't really know how beat up he is. It just says pretty much he was sore, right leg and his ankle. So he's going to play in New Orleans in the Dome. Not bad at all. 6,500. You can play him. I don't like Alex Smith. I don't like Jameis Winston. I like Carson Palmer. And the only other guy I like, and he's going to be low owned. He burned me last week. Burned me. Is Ben Roethlisberger. I didn't use him in much, so don't be like, oh, you're an idiot. I didn't like the whole drama that was surrounding the Steelers prior to the game the whole week. But the only reason I used Big Ben is because he's at home, and I know his ceiling can be huge. I knew no one was going to play him against Jacksonville because of the whole stuff that's going on. People just aren't paying up for Big Ben this year, and I'm good with that. I think he's going to get a good game in, but I'm going to give him one more week. 5 interceptions is ugly. There's no way he can do worse than that, right? But we'll see. Probably will. It's at Kansas City, so it looks like a super scary matchup, but it's not. They're really good against the run. They're not good against quarterbacks and wide receivers. The reason I used Big Ben last week before you guys like hit X, or you probably already did, and you're like, I'm not watching this idiot, is because I was big on Antonio Brown. I talked him up a lot. Oh gosh, I don't know if he dropped. I just kept seeing like Antonio Brown targeted, drop. While I was watching the other game, I was trying to keep up with that one, old game cast. And it was like he had some huge drops or some miscues. I don't know what happened. In the end zone a couple times too, dropped or just missed. I don't know. But I knew he was going to have a huge game. That's why I picked Big Ben, because if Antonio goes off for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, pretty sure Big Ben's going to have 250 plus 2, 3 touchdowns. So that's why I did that. Yeah, it sucked. But I'm going to play him in just a little bit. No one's going to have him on the ownership. He travels to Kansas City, but Kansas City is horrible against a quarterback, and they're not good against wide receivers. Why not? They're not favored to win. Pittsburgh's not favored to win, and they just got embarrassed. Usually they fare well. They also do better in the middle towards the end of the season compared to the beginning of the season. Like I said, Le'Veon's had to start getting his touches and doing what he normally does, and they still got to get on page with Martavis Bryant, and they still got a rookie receiver in there. So it's going to take a while. I think Todd Haley's going to take the criticism. That's our offensive coordinator, and I think he's going to have a decent game. If you play 10 lineups a week, 12 lineups, throw him in one. Throw him in one with Antonio Brown and see how that works, because he's so cheap. He still has a decent ceiling. It's still Big Ben, but he has a great matchup and low ownership. So GPP only, don't play him in cash. But yeah, that's all. I'm done defending him because he doesn't really have many people left that are defending him. Other than that, I don't like any other wide receiver or quarterbacks. I talked a good bit about running backs already. When you can play Le'Veon Bell, you play Le'Veon Bell. But for 9,600 against one of the best run defenses in the league, I don't like him. I mean, he's almost 10,000 on DraftKings. Like, he didn't. I understand he got like 9 or 10 catches. Like, that's ridiculous. But their offense isn't clicking, and he has an insanely tough matchup. So, and Kansas City's favored to win. That doesn't speak too well for the running back. He is a GPP only play for me. Usually I use Bell in cash and GPP. It doesn't really matter. Like, if the dude gets 30 points, he gets 30 points. I'm only going to use him in a few GPPs. I play mostly cash. I really like Kareem Hunt. Pittsburgh's number 1 against wide receivers. This means it's like, I guess you can call a reverse funnel defense or whatever the funnel is. I don't know. I said it last week and I just brain farted. They're not good against the run. They're good against the pass. So either way, it's still a funnel. It's just whichever way you look at it. Who cares? Leonard Fournette decided he wanted to just go absolutely insane on that one run. I didn't play him last week because I didn't think they'd be able to control the clock and get 5 interceptions. So I didn't play Fournette last week other than my season longs. I like him season long. I traded for him. I drafted him. But I didn't play him last week, and then he gets this 90-yard touchdown, and then NFL radio is talking about how bad Pittsburgh sucks against the run. It's like, I understand they got torched twice against the run, but if he didn't get that 90-yard run, he's under 100 yards. So for the week, that's really good. So I don't know. I thought it was unfair, but good run on his part. But I like him this week. He has to play against the Rams. The Rams are absolutely horrible against the run. They're playing in Jacksonville. You never know what Jacksonville team you're going to get, but you're going to pay up if you want Fournette. Like, you definitely have to pay for him. But he's fine. Like, a lot of people are probably going to pay up for Kareem Hunt, that extra $200. So I have other running backs that are cheap to where you can mix and match. If you play a few lineups, mix up Kareem Hunt and Fournette with these other cheap running backs, like I'm going to say, or like I already did say, I'll go over it again. Or play them both and play cheap receivers. That's always one. Or play Big Ben. I'm just kidding. Don't play Big Ben too much, remember. Melvin Gordon. I said it last week, and there was I commented on a couple other people's videos, and then I was talking to one of the guys on here, And it was like, what do you think about Gordon? Like, questionable. He didn't do well. And I was like, yeah, but just the volume's there. I don't think he's going to have that horrible game. He is touchdown dependent. And then, boom, there it was. Like, he actually had decent yards per carry. Now he gets to go up against Oakland. They're not going to have Carr. If they do get Carr, good. He's not going to be able to throw much. Like, dude's in a back cast practically. So he's going to look like a mummy out there trying to throw. I don't know what I was going with that mummy reference. But, yeah, I like Gordon. I'm not going to have him too much because of his price. I'd rather play Gurley. Gurley disappointed people last week because he had a good matchup against Seattle, and then some people said he didn't have a good matchup against Seattle. But it was just a low-scoring game because it was a divisional rivalry game. Seattle was like, hey, like, we're tired of you guys thinking you're good. Who knows? Rams might be good. We don't know. But I think that whole division's kind of gross until San Fran takes over next year. We'll see. But Gurley's got another good matchup, and his price went down. Jacksonville's not good against the run. We never know what Jacksonville team we're going to get, but their offense cannot score many points. Their defense can, but their offense cannot. So if their offense can't score a lot of points, the Rams have a decent defense. Sets up well for Gurley. People are probably going to be off of him because of last week compared to his normal 30-40% ownership. I think it's going to be less, like 25, 22, around there. So, yeah, you can play Gurley just right there. I talked about Freeman earlier. He's at home. You just got to watch out with that timeshare with Coleman creeping up. Baltimore's not good against the run. You can play Jordan Howard. I was so disappointed when he broke away that run last night for a touchdown, and Marcus Wheaton had like a fake holding call. Like, because I played Jordan Howard on the Monday, Thursdays, just because Mitchell Trubisky, new quarterback, they were going to lean on the run. No idea what kind of Minnesota offense was coming out. I thought Howard would be a good pick. I picked him for 80 yards, 17 catches, come on, Le'Veon Bell style, 17 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I was almost right on the money. And it got called back, so that sucked. But I like him this week. You're always going to get him at low ownership because he's on the Bears. So, and he's at Baltimore. Like, that is an ugly game. It's Baltimore -7. That never favors the opposing running back. It favors Baltimore's running back, but Chicago's defense is good. It's not like Joe Flacco is good. It's not like they have a good defense, and Chicago has a good offense, and Chicago has a good defense. So I'm fine with Jordan Howard. Mitchell Trubisky still, I mean, that's a tough defense to throw against. I like Ravens' defense this week, but I'm fine with Jordan Howard just because his price isn't bad, $5,900. So, yeah, like a middle to lower tier running back that gets full volume. Like, touch-wise, like, yeah, Tariq Cohen's back there, but he's going to get you 15 to 20 touches, like RB1 touches, and he can take it to the house. Like, he should get you 80 yards and a touchdown, like, any given week. I think he's very consistent when he gets his touches. So I like him. You're going to get him at low ownership. He's averaging 15 points a game. That's pretty much like 80 yards and a touchdown. Like, you're good. I don't like Doug Martin. Jai, Atlanta is horrible against running backs, but it doesn't matter because Miami is horrible as a team. So suck it, Dolphins. Aaron Jones came out. Probably a lot of people are going to play him this week. No thanks. That's an anomaly game. Mike Gillislee, if Tom Brady's hurt and beat up and the Jets have a good secondary, oddly enough, but they haven't been too great against running backs. They're in and out. I think with Brady being hurt, he's going to rely more on the dink and dunks and passing off the ball or handing off the ball. So I like Gillislee and I like James White. James White's 5,200 and Gillislee's 5,500. So I like both of those. You can use Lamar Miller. He's averaging 14 points a game, and he goes against Cleveland. They're good against the running backs, but I think this Houston team, when you're favored by 9.5 for over under a 45, you can use the running back. I don't know, write down Lamar. I forgot, but Lamar, I got you, buddy. I'll put you in right now. Versus Cleveland and his price, so 5,400. So a lot of good middle tier running backs. They don't have this huge GPP play like Lamar Miller, Jordan Howard. They don't have that huge ceiling. So they're tough. James White averaging 12 points in PPR leagues, and he's 5,200. So you're good there as well. So another cheap guy you can use to get you in a flex spot to give you two good running backs or one good running back, one good receiver. I don't know. That's the biggest thing is making rosters. So who else do I like? Duke Johnson's doing stuff, but Houston's so good against running backs. I don't care. Like I said, if Fat Rob's hurt, I like both Samaje Perine and Chris Thompson. They're both cheap. San Francisco is horrible against the run. Perine's 44, Thompson's 48. Thompson's got this massive fantasy points per game, but then like John Gruden is just like, no, I don't feel like running you, or Jay Gruden, my bad. Sorry, John. No offense. But he just didn't want to, even when he was doing amazing, Chris Thompson was bugging, I'll just say Coach Gruden, bugging Jay Gruden about more touches. And he was like, yeah, Chris talked to me about getting more touches. And I said no, because it's Rob Kelly's backfield. And I was like, that's why you have Kirk Cousins throwing for 5,000 yards and you guys barely made the playoffs like 1 year. You suck. Anyway, Elijah McGuire, 4,600. The New England's not that great against the running backs. And if Tom Brady's hurt and can't throw that well, and they got a good secondary and it's actually a close game, they're going to lean on the run. They don't want Tom to have the ball. So Elijah McGuire for 4,600. If Bilal Powell's hurt and he gets the backfield to himself, yeah, I'm good with that. You got to watch Forte. If that old man comes in and steals touches, you got to watch that. And I love Alvin Kamara for New Orleans. The Lions are not good at guarding running backs, especially pass catching backs. So, like I said earlier, I like Ingram and Kamara 45 and 44. You can play them both. You can play one of them. But, yeah, you definitely have both of these guys that are playable. With AP gone, you give up. I was talking to my buddy. He's a huge Saints fan earlier today, and he was asking about AP. Like, is he worth it for like a waiver wire pickup? Yeah, you need a running back. He is worth it. Your team's really hurting, but like you probably had Dalvin Cook and David Johnson, but yeah, he's worth it. But he was asking me about how much does that open up for Alvin Kamara, because he's a big Kamara fan, and he was like, well, if he's only getting 2-3 touches a game, I was like, well, you got to think, how long is he on the field for? Is he on the field for like 10-15% of offensive snaps? Because if he's on the field for 10-15% of their snaps, now all of a sudden Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, they take that over, especially if it's dual back, and it was AP and someone else on the field. He's gone. They're both going to be on the field more. So it's not necessarily the touches, because that's all game flow, game dependent. So it depends on how often he was on the field. I don't know how long he was on the field, because I don't really care. But I like Alvin Kamara more. If I got to pick for the price, I'm going to have him in a good bit. I think that's all the running backs I like. So for cheap ones, like Lamar Miller and Jordan Howard were decent price. Chris Thompson, Samaje Perine, Ingram, Kamara, James White, Gillislee, Elijah McGuire. All those guys are middle to low tier, middle to low price. They're all usable this week. You just got to watch the injuries. So Forte, Fat Rob, those guys, you got to watch. Make sure that they are that they're not playing. So, and Fat Rob probably is. He does that crap, but he killed me last week because I knew no one was going to have him. So I usually play guys like that who are in a decent spot with low ownership, with a lot of volume. Dude comes in and freaking busts his ankle. Now he's got hurt ribs and a bust ankle. So I'm not expecting him really to do too much, but they got Jay Gruden as a coach, so it doesn't matter. Wide receivers, I'll try to speed it up. Antonio Brown's got a great matchup against Kansas City. I know he goes against Marcus Peters. Doesn't really matter. It's still Antonio Brown, but who I really like is Martavis Bryant on there as well, because he gets the easier matchup with the number 2 corner. So I like that. Like I said, I'm going to use Big Ben in a bit, so don't hate me, but kind of stuff like that kind of helps you win smaller tournaments. If he, even big tournaments, I just don't see him doing that this year. Big Ben being the Big Ben of old, he's actually just old Big Ben now. So, but I think they're going to light a fire underneath Pittsburgh, and I'm actually going to call, it is an upset, but I'm going to call Steelers over Kansas City. And I think it goes on Big Ben because of the funnel defense. They're good at stopping the run, not good at stopping the pass. If you give Antonio Brown, Bryant, and Juju Smith-Schuster with Big Ben throwing on the ball behind a good offensive line, like against a poor secondary, like, yeah, you're good. I don't like Julio Jones. That offense just isn't doing enough. They're not using him enough. Everyone's kind of getting a piece on that offense. And he's hurt every week. Like, dude just had a bye and he's questionable. Like, I don't get it. Just if it's the turf toe, cut it off, get a bionic one on there, and you'll be the world's best receiver. DeAndre Hopkins, Cleveland's good against wide receivers. Then again, they had week 1 Big Ben in Cleveland in first game, and then they went up against like Joe Flacco and company, and like they haven't gone up against a lot of great people yet, Cleveland in general. So I'm not like too worried about that, like they're good against the wide receiver thing, because I think it's kind of fake. I'm trying to pull them up real quick, trying to find anyone on that freaking team. Good gosh, DraftKings, they're hiding them. But, okay, finally found Duke Johnson. So, yeah, they played the Jets. Like, okay, no, they don't really have many receivers. They played the Bengals, and A.J. Green torched them. They played at Indianapolis, at Baltimore, in Big Ben week 1. So, yeah, they played one good receiver, and he absolutely torched them. What do you think DeAndre Hopkins is going to do? Like, AJ Green's more consistent than DeAndre Hopkins, but I think, and he's a better route runner, but DeAndre Hopkins is a phenomenal route runner, and he's more athletic and he's a bigger target. So I think he's overall a better receiver. He hasn't had the quarterback. Say what you want about Andy Dalton. He was an MVP candidate for the beginning of the half of the last season somehow. That's weird to say, I know, but DeAndre hasn't had the same luxury of a consistent quarterback. Now he's got Mr. Watson in there. It's going to be a high-owned stack. So, like I said, you could pivot off that with Kirk Cousins, but I don't think the Kirk Cousins stack, what are you going to do with that compared to Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins? Now that's going to be higher price, higher owned. So it's GPP and cash. Like a lot of people say, is it GPP or is it cash plays? It's like, well, if your stack gets you 55, 60 points, it doesn't matter what it is. Like you're going to either win a small tournament or push yourself into a GPP. So it doesn't matter. Other receivers I kind of like Keenan Allen. I don't really like his price when you can get DeAndre Hopkins for 200 more. I don't like Brandon Cooks or Stephon Diggs right now because Brandon Cooks, if Tom Brady's beat up and that secondary is good, Cooks is good on the deep balls, and they have 2 good safeties back there. Stephon Diggs is beat up. Stephon Diggs is actually hurt. So I don't like them. Keenan Allen, decent matchup. It doesn't say he has a decent matchup, but he actually does. They move him around the field, and because I like Rivers a little bit, I kind of like Keenan Allen. I might not even play him at all just because his price. Like I like Hopkins way too much this week, so I probably won't even play him. But if you like him, or if you want to take a risk on him, like low ownership, yeah, he's not going to have high ownership. Michael Thomas. We don't know what Willie Snead's going to do yet, but yeah, Michael Thomas is the man, Mr. Consistent. He's got a week off, and he's going against Detroit. Yeah, they got Darius Slay, so he's got a hard cornerback matchup this week, but it's still New Orleans at home. Use him at your own risk. Like, yeah, that's going to be a normal stack. Breeze, Thomas, it's going to be not low owned, not medium owned, I guess somewhere in between there. But just because it's Drew Brees at home, but he does go up against a very good corner, and they have 2 good corners. So use him at your own risk. Jordy Nelson's cheaper than him. I know he also has another tough matchup, and he's got a big questionable next to him. 1, he's going to be absolutely fine. And 2, like Xavier Rhodes is really good, but Jordy Nelson's really, really good. So I use 2 reallys for Jordy, 1 really for Xavier, so Jordy wins. I mean, other than that, like I know how good Xavier Rhodes is. Like he's one of your only shutdown corners. Go to Jordy Nelson's game log, and like he's hurt 1 game, and then he's got 21 points, 23 points, 23 points, 10. And that's because Devontae Adams snagged 2 touchdowns out of nowhere. But like that's insane. He's averaging 15.5 points a game, and that's with a 0 averaged in. So even though he's got a tough matchup, like I'm still going to use him. And what I said last week is against Dallas, he was going to be very high owned. And I'm still going to use him just because of the Devontae Adams was supposed to be out. I thought he'd get more targets. Like if Devontae Adams is out, there's no reason to think he couldn't have had both of those touchdowns. Like why not? And so yeah, this week between the matchup and the questionable tag at Minnesota and the week he had the recency bias for only having 10 points, he burned a lot of people. They aren't going to have him as much. He's just matchup proof. So I like him. Let's see, who else do I have over here? Michael Thomas, Jordy Nelson, Larry Fitzgerald, only because Carson Palmer against Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay is favored to win, but it's a 44.5 over-under, not bad. But Tampa Bay is one of the worst. It says they're the worst on here, one of the worst against the wide receiver. So you're good there. You got a matchup. They're not good against quarterbacks. They're horrible against quarterbacks. So you're good there. So I like the Arizona receivers. You just never know what Carson Palmer's going to come out because that offensive line is just absolutely trash. Other than against New England, Tampa Bay had the worst pass rush in the league. So they kind of came alive against Tom Brady, but that's also because he had no Gronk, no Edelman, and he doesn't really have a great offensive line right now. So Palmer's got all his weapons. So I like Palmer, Fitzgerald. I'll use it in a little bit, more so cash. Who else do I like? Devontae Adams against Minnesota. He goes up against Trey Wayne. So that's a much, much better matchup than Jordy Nelson. I don't know how many people know about that, but it's a way better matchup. He is 5,700, and he's averaging 15.1. Jordy Nelson's averaging 15.6. He's way cheaper, and he has a better matchup. Yeah, I'm going to use Devontae Adams more than Jordy Nelson. But still, that's one of those things where all of a sudden Randall Cobb lights it up like that. That offense can do that. So I'm going to have exposure to all the receivers, but more so Devontae Adams than Jordy or Cobb. But so will a lot of other people, and that's fine. That's what happens when you're on the news all 1 week and then you light up the league the next week and no one owns you. Like no one had ownership. But I put Terrell Pryor question mark. San Francisco is absolutely horrible against the wide receivers. So I like any Washington receiver somewhat. It's just a matter of which one. Josh Doctson broke my heart last week. Like he dropped that touchdown. But that's back-to-back weeks he was targeted on deep throws in the touchdown in the red zone. He caught one massive one, and then he dropped one big one. So, yeah, I think he's going to go to him again. He's steadily being more and more involved, and yeah, I like him. He's super cheap, and he's got a great matchup. So good with Terrell Pryor in a little bit, but I'm probably going to use Josh Doctson a little bit more. That's going to be my cousin's stack for a low ownership stack. Will Fuller. Good gosh, this guy just came back and was like, hey, guys, remember, I'm still really good. He came back. He's averaging 20 points, and he's still only 5,200, and now he gets Cleveland's number 2 receiver when Hopkins is probably going to get the safety coverage on top. Yeah, I am fully good with Will Fuller. He's going to have high exposure for me, even though his matchup isn't great. Like I said, Cleveland's decent against the wide receiver. Don't let that fool you. They're really not. So I really like Will Fuller. I'm probably going to do a Watson, Fuller, Hopkins stack because everyone's going to do Hopkins, Watkins. And they're going to do Hopkins or Watson, Fuller as well. I'm probably going to do all 3 of them. And then I might do another stack with Hopkins and Fuller in it. I just don't know which one. And it's going to have to be something cheap. Maybe Palmer, maybe Big Ben, Martavis Bryant, Hopkins, Fuller. I don't know. Stuff I got to think about later. Just trying to throw that out there to you guys so you guys can either say, no, that's stupid, or, okay, yeah, that's going to be low ownership. And Martavis Bryant gets to go up against the number 2 corner for Kansas City instead of Marcus Peters. And they lost Eric Berry in the secondary, so Martavis Bryant is a deep ball guy. If they're not supposed to win this game, they're going to have to score. They're going to have to throw. I like Martavis Bryant. And he's 4,700 in a very good matchup. So I like Bryant as well. Let me write it real quick. So I like Martavis Bryant. I kind of like John Brown, kind of don't. He's tough to play. But I like Deshaun Jackson. So every week I say don't go against Patrick Peterson. He gets Mike Evans this week, and Mike Evans is huge. But Patrick Peterson for a cornerback is also a big cornerback, and he is one of the best, if not the best, cornerback in the NFL for now. Like some of those new guys, they are going to be better, but he's going to get older. He is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and he goes up against Mike Evans. That doesn't mean Mike Evans isn't going to still feast. Like, it's still Mike Evans, but I'm not going to play him. I'm going to play Deshaun Jackson because he gets to go up against Justin Bethel, and Arizona's pretty weak secondary right now overall. He's 5,800, so he's one of those middle tier guys. He's up priced with Devontae Adams, Terrell Pryor, Michael Crabtree, and Randall Cobb. So that's tough because you have some good guys up there. But San Francisco is number one against the tight ends. So like I said, Washington receivers, Josh Doxson, that helps you out. I already said that. I don't know why I said it again. But I don't really like too big of receivers. I just said Hopkins and Brown. That's pretty much it. But I like a lot of middle tiers and some lower guys. For tight ends, it's tight ends. Like, I've actually surprisingly been spot on with tight ends. So this week, since I said that, probably going to whiff on him. Anytime you play Gronk, you play Gronk. He's hurt, but he randomly sat last week. He should be fine this week, but you never know with Gronk. And if he's back, Brady's just going to be like, oh, thank goodness. The Jets weren't able to stop him before. They have new safeties. We'll see how they use them on Gronk. I don't know. Kelsey's hurt. I think he's actually kind of serious. Jordan Reed's hurt. So there's your three top tight ends are questionable. So the top two are averaging 16 points. Jordan Reed's the next one, averaging 8 points, and he has the worst tight end matchup that you can. The next guy is my dude that I've been saying for a couple weeks, Safarian Jenkins, Jets. New England's not good against the tight end, and Josh McCown's probably going to have to throw to him to keep them in the game because they are not favored. So if you do stream McCown because of A, his price, and B, his matchup, I would stack him with Safarian Jenkins. I wouldn't stack him with Curse or Robbie Anderson. I don't like Hunter Henry. And then you got Griffin. This sucks that Griffin is that expensive because he's getting like 4 targets a week. But he's got the best matchup in the league pretty much. He's going up against the Browns. They are horrible against tight ends. The other guy is Anderson, Steven Anderson, and he's super cheap. He's 2,800. He's going to have low ownership, and he has an amazing matchup. The only thing is a good bit of people are probably going to play, I think it's Ryan Griffin for Houston's tight end. They just don't get targets. So Ryan Griffin has one big game. Anderson has none. So I don't care about that. Cameron Brate, Arizona's decent against the tight end, but Cameron Brate is I've been playing him every week, averaging 13.5. So the only two guys, Zach Ertz isn't on the schedule because it's Thursday. The only two guys higher than Cameron Brate are Gronk and Kelsey. So, and he's 3,900. Volume and average fantasy points alone points to use him. And then you got, I think it's George Kittle for San Fran. Washington's horrible against the tight end. San Francisco's going to have to throw. So you got a $3,400 tight end there. I like Fleener. Detroit's not good against the tight end. He's 3,200. So I like Fleener as well. That's pretty much it for tight ends. Baltimore is not great against tight ends, but that's only because Mercedes Lewis inflated their stats. But once again, Mitchell Trubisky comes in. I used him in my Monday through Thursdays. I don't do cocaine, guys. My nose has been itching this entire time. But no offense to Miami Dolphins fans. Not too soon. Jets. I like Zach Miller. I've been playing him here and there, streaming him as a tight end. Because he's a good tight end. We forget how good he was, I think, last year. But that offense is atrocious. I think it's a lot better with Mitch Trubisky. But he's got another really tough matchup at Baltimore. Baltimore's not great against the tight end. No one's really going to use Zach Miller, and he's 2,900. So if you need to fit a super cheap tight end for a punt play, then you're good there. I spoke long enough, so I'm not going to really go over defenses. Like, obviously, you got the Texans, Ravens, Jags. Like, you can use all of them. I like Redskins because you got a 1:00 game in Washington, East Coast, against a West Coast team at, like I said, 1:00. So you're good there. Yeah, other than that, like, Dolphins was my number one defense last week. Not going to be this week. But yeah, other than that, I don't really like anyone else. But that's it. Like I said, always comment if you got any questions. Say who you like as well, because I don't know. I'll look it over and be like, okay, yeah, he's got a point there, or like, hey, I don't think he's going to do well because of this. Like, tell me why you like someone, and because I like to use other people's picks too. Like, clearly, I'm not just going to use just mine. Like, I'm going to have to see other people's opinions and try to figure out who the chalk is. So, see you guys like. Hopefully, I didn't blabber on too much, but sorry the video got out like a day late, but you guys are fine. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got a good week. Thanks.